Um, oh, dang, too big. It's absolutely too big. Okay, let me try and fix it. Can I fix it? I don't want it playable. I'll be back. Hold on. Okay, that's much better. I guess I have something to look at. So, we haven't gotten live on here like in a couple days. Well, I don't know when was the last time that we went live. So, Assalamu alaikum. Hello, hi, goodbye, good evening, good night. How's everyone's day? Wherever you might be watching from, let me know in the comment section. Right? Today we're going to talk about the anatomy of ADHD rage. Some of you might know it, some of you might not. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, 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 hey. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it's okay. So, first of all, shout out to everyone that's going to watch this now or watching it with me now, or that's going to watch it at a later time, right? I see you. Drop where you're watching from. Drop a hello. Let me know where you are. So, tonight, okay, have you ever just completely lost it over something really small, like you had a completely disproportionate reaction, yelling, crying, things that, or saying things that you would immediately regret, feeling like something just took over your body for a moment and then it was over and you were left standing in the aftermath wondering what just happened, right? Some of y'all be like, yep, yep, mm-hmm. So tonight we're going to talk about ADHD rage. Is it real? What is actually happening in the brain when it happens? What triggers it? What does it look like from the inside and from the outside? And most importantly, what can we do about it? So stay with me. This is going to hit home for a lot of people. Now, the low fuel analogy, I'm going to give you guys that type of analogy. Imagine your brain is a car. People wake up with in the morning with full 20-gallon tank of patience. They have, they got reserves. They can handle the traffic, the noise, the demands, the unexpected detours, and they still have a fuel for the end of the day, right? But when you have an ADHD, your emotional tank is already sitting at a quarter full from just surviving the morning, from just getting the kids up, from, remembering where you put your phone up, from just trying to hold the 17 things in your head that are supposed to be tracking simultaneously. So by 2 in the afternoon, when the kids are loud, when the deadlines are missed, when someone says the wrong thing in the wrong tone, you're not just angry, you're running on fumes. You're not overreacting, you're out of fuel, okay? And the car with no fuel does not glide gracefully to stop. It sputters, okay? It stalls. It sometimes just stops in the middle of the road and causes a scene. Now everybody's like, what? Why this car over there? Okay. So that is what ADHD looks like from the inside, not a character flaw, an empty tank. So we're gonna kind of do a deep dive into this, why the tank drains so fast, why the guilt, after the explosion is so heavy, and what we can actually do to stop the cycle before it starts, right? So, number one, yes, it is real. Studies suggest up to 70% of adults with ADHD experience difficulties with, emotional regulations, including frequent bouts of anger and irritability. Okay. Hi. Oh Lord, my remote Muslim Dale. So you have this like 70% is a high number, guys. Okay. Oh, I definitely see that. Oh, maniac. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry, Gary. It's it's not a fun thing to live with. Having like neurodivergent disorder, and then having a mental, like, those combination is not pretty at all. So there's a nuance, right? Again, 70% you get from, the emotional regulation and whatnot. And that is most people with ADHD. Now, here's the nuance. Anger is not officially like listed as the core symptom of ADHD in the diagnostic criteria, right? But, okay, but they call it, and a lot of the doctors, including, they don't immediately connect the two, which means like a lot of people with ADHD, we are walking with, our whole life, walking our whole lives, feeling ashamed of these episodes without anyone ever fully explaining to us what and how this is coming about. So, anger stemming from emotional dysregulations are like the fundamental parts of ADHD experience for a significant number of kids. Put my medicine down. My nephew is playing with my medicine, guys, so it's loud today. It's not like a quiet live session. Um, you guys hear that noise? It's him. He's playing with my medicine. Don't worry, he's not able to open it. He's the only one. Um, what was I saying? See, you're making me lose my train of thought, little boy. um, experience. So a lot of people, it's distracting me. It's give it to me now. Give it to me. Give it to me. Yes. Your hand, your hand. Hey, hey, Kuzo, come on, you stink. The guy give you a protein now. What? Abasho. Was just a little. Sorry, guys. What was I saying? So yeah, so a lot of adults and kids with the ADHD do experience this emotional dysregulation and stuff. And even when controlling for that's the one that the medication. It looks really nice. Quisa did I went. Um. Mhm. Hmm? Mm-mm. You know, Nebraska. No, Total Care, Total something. Yeah. I'm not Medicaid people. They know I'm pregnant. They ain't offering me no. And you're due too, so so like an individual one. Yes, technically, you can't use old strollers. The hospital will not approve it. Strollers or car seat? It's car seat. You have. But I thought you guys were buying a car seat. You said we're not. I thought you guys. Guys, I'm so sorry. I had a conference. I'm having a conversation with my sister, so completely lost my train of thought. Yeah. So even when you're controlling for related conditions, like with when you have ADHD, you do still experience those disproportionate problems with anger, irritability, and managing your other emotions. So to be clear, okay, to be very clear, ADHD, if you have ADHD and you struggle with sudden explosive anger, I'm not talking about like, you being violent or anything like that. Don't be violent. I mean, if you are, then you need to really, really go back to therapy to get that situated because that's not nice. Um, it's not a character flaw per se, right? It's you're not a bad person. It's just your brain doing something specific that we're gonna try to I'm gonna try to break down. Okay, I'm gonna break it down. Break it down, okay? Number one, I'm gonna do it like in pillars or in segments. Part one, the amygdala. Okay, the amygdala hijack. We know about the amygdala. That's the brain's alarm system. But I'm gonna give it to you a more specific image of what happens during the ADHD rage when you're having the ADHD rage, right? It's a neurotypical brain. In a neurotypical brain, the connection between the amygdala, which is the emotional center, and the prefrontal cortex, which is the logical and reasoning center, is like it's like a strong, clean wire. Signal goes up, signals come back. Logic moderates the emotion before it becomes a reaction, right? And then in an ADHD brain, the connection is like a frayed wire. Sometimes it works, sometimes the signal does not, go through enough. And when you are already depleted, already running on fumes, the wire frays even faster. Here's what I need you to hear. When you feel like the heat is rising in your chest, that pressure, that flood, your logic center has literally left the building. It's not that you're choosing not to think. It's it's like that part of your brain that is the thinking is temporarily offline, right? You can't think your way out of rage once it started because the thinking part is not there to do the thinking. And that's why people say, and I know I was overreacting, but I could not stop myself. Like you literally cannot, right? It's just the neurological aspect of our brain. And unlike typical anger, which tends to build up gradually, ADHD rage can appear suddenly and is usually disproportionate to that situation. Trust me, it happens to me a lot. Mine is my anger, my rage section of it is I go silent. I shut down and then a kid asks me for a snack, I'm exploding. It's not fun. So the key difference is normal anger, you warm up to it. ADHD does not. It goes from 0 to gazillion in seconds, and then it passes sometimes just as quickly, and you're left wondering, where did that come from and why did I not control it? Chat, let me know. Has anyone ever experienced, or has you been told, just calm down, or just think about it. I can't even speak today, guys. Has it ever been told just to calm down or just think about it and wanted to say, I would love to, except my brain is not available right now. Okay, like my brain is literally just is the wires are not clicking. Part two, you have sensory overload. This is the last straw. This pillar that gets the least attention and the most misunderstood is because from the outside, it looks like you're losing it over something small. And from the inside, you are. But here's why ADHD often comes with sensory processing differences. Sounds are literally louder in the ADHD brain. Tags on clothing feel, scratchier, visual clutter, a messy counter, too many things on the scene or on the screen, a busy room can feel like an actual physical pressure, right? The input never fully filters it out. It comes in at full volume all the time. The brain often struggles to filter out irrelevant stimuli, leading to a constant bombardment of the sensory information. This overload becomes overwhelming, resulting in emotional meltdowns or shutdowns as the individual tries to cope with this, excess input. So by the time the explosion happens, it's not about whatever just happened. It's about the TV that was too loud for the last 3 hours, the lights that were too bright, the tags that were scratching all morning, the conversations that have been overlapping, the smell, the visual chaos, all of that stacking and stacking and stocking up. So you're like, oh my God, I cannot breathe. I cannot feel. I'm about to lose it. I'm losing it. I lost it, right? You're losing it over that little thing. And then one more thing to I guess added. And the brain says, stop everything now. And when it comes out as rage, not because you're angry at the person in front of you, but because your brain has hit absolute maximum capacity for input and it has run out of, any other way to make it stop. Sometimes the rage is not even about your husband or your kids. It's just that TV was too loud, the lights were too bright, and your brain has it has hit the maximum stimuli that it can take, the maximum things that it can handle. So you're like, oh my God, when is it gonna stop? When is this noise going to stop? So you have this explosion, right? The explosion is just your brain way of saying, stop now, literally. Stop it. So let me know. How many times have you blown up over something small and immediately thought, that was not really what it was about? Really. I had this moment last week with my spouse. How did I don't even remember how it started, if I'm being honest with you guys. But I completely just shut down and I was in like, oh my God, what is wrong with me? Like I was just like, oh my God. My brain was racing a million miles and I couldn't process my thoughts and I was just crying in tears. It was not pretty whatsoever, whatsoever. So, and then I was taking it out on him, like, just don't talk to me. Maybe he might have said something. I don't know. He probably triggered something. And it was like, why did you trigger me? Now I'm crying like a little kid and I don't know why I'm crying. I don't know why I feel like I'm not enough. I don't know why I feel like the world is against me. I don't know why I feel like I'm not being understood, like nobody understands me. Like, oh my God, if you want to, you know what I mean? Like I'm having so many overlapping conversations. I'm just like, I cannot do this anymore. Life is too hard for me type of thing. So, and it happens very, very frequently. Like it's not even pleasant. It's not even funny, y'all. Now, the other part, and I talked about this, and I it's in our playlist of mind and health RSD, which is the rejection sensitive dysphoria. Okay, this one is like the one I think is going to unlock something for a lot of people. People with ADHD often experience like this extreme immediate emotional pain in response to perception, okay, of being rejected or being criticized or just any word. The word perception is very important because it does not have to be the actual rejection. It's just that how we feel about it. Like I feel like, oh my God, he's rejecting me. Oh my God, I'm not a bad, I'm not a good mom. Oh, like all of that stuff. So someone corrects us, even gently, even kindly, and you feel the flash of the white, hot anger, not hurt, not sadness, anger, immediate and intense. That is RSD at work. Your brain perceived a small correction as a total attack on my character. Like, why are you attacking me? I'm a good mom. I'm a good wife. I'm this, I'm that. Why are you doing this to me? So, and it fought back immediately to protect you, right? The amygdala fired before the prefrontal cortex could assess. Wait, is this actually an attack? Is it actually dangerous, right? It said threat, boom, you responded to that threat. And what makes RSD particularly painful in a relationship is this, like the people closest to us are the ones that likely are going to correct us, give us a feedback, set limits with us, boundaries, which means the people you love are the most who they're gonna deal with our BS. They gonna see everything. Okay? Right? And they often have really no idea, which is sad, right? Because you look angry, you look sad, not wounded, and they respond to the anger, and then you feel rejected, like, oh my God, why are you responding back the way that I am? You know what I mean? And the cycle deepens. So, did RSD just explain something in your relationship that's never made sense before? If so, let me know in the comment section while you're watching here with me. Um, and then part four, right? We're gonna go to layer because I think this is the part that is most validating for people who experience this. There is a study that was done by the Cambridge scientists have shown that regulating emotions which can manifest as depression, anxiety, and explosive outburst may be the core symptoms of ADHD. Core symptoms, not side effects, not complications, like the core part of ADHD is actually for many people. One of the analysis of many of the several studies said like 30 to 70% of adults with ADHD and 20 to 45% of children with ADHD have significant emotional dysregulations. I'm part of that statistic. I'm not even gonna lie to you, right? I am part of it. Okay. So what we're talking about potentially half of the children with ADHD and up to 70% of adults. That is extremely common. Yet, how many of us were told that this when you or your child was diagnosed? I'm guessing not many of us, right? Because the conversation around ADHD still mostly centers on attention and hyperactivity, and the emotional pieces, the rage piece, gets left out, which means people are walking around feeling like something is additionally wrong with them on top of their ADHD, okay, when actually it is part of the same thing, okay? So when we have this emotional dysregulations in ADHD, it's not about the emotional outburst, okay? It can be subtle, like an underlining feeling of relentlessness, or restlessness, I mean, um, quickness to tears. I've been like that lately, which I feel like I'm not an emotional person, but I don't know. I don't know what my surroundings people would say. In the sense, like, I don't just cry, you know what I mean? Even moments where emotions feel overwhelmingly intense. So it's not always gonna look like an explosive rage. Sometimes it's crying at the thing that seems small. I have been crying in my pillow for the past few weeks. I'm just like, what the hell is wrong with me? I have a thought in my head and I just keep on bawling. Like I start bawling, guys. It's ridiculous. So sometimes it's irritability that sits underneath everything. Sometimes it's just feeling of being emotionally raw all the time. Like your skin is just thinner than everyone else's, right? There are sisters who describe feeling of rage every single time she stops. She has to stop doing something, and she enjoys to switch to something she does not like being in the middle of a project she finally focused on, and suddenly having to stop and to do the dishes. So the rage is real, right? And it's the name. Task switching is difficult. When you have to switch the task, is very, very difficult when it comes to ADHD, right? Because sometimes our brain hyper focuses when it finally is locked in. It's like, yes, I got this. And then you have to be yanked out of that focus. It's not just inconvenience, it is neurologically jarring. Okay, the brain has to do something enormous to shift gears, and that work production friction, and the friction comes out of anger. And it's not really about the dishes. The dishes are just the interruption to the focus state, and the anger is the cost of that transition. Not pretty. And then the silent burnout, many moms or people with ADHD hold it together all day. She's calm, they're calm, patient with the kids, professional on calls, managing everything. Basically, we're masking beautifully. And then the house gets quiet, the kids are in bed, everything settles, and the the husband asks a completely neutral question like, what do you want for dinner? Or is there something cooked, or do we have? And she snaps at him hard out of nowhere from his perspective, anyways, right? From his perspective, he's like, dang, you trying to eat me? Like, relax. I'm just trying to ask you what's for dinner, homie. Right? But from our nervous system, from our perspective, sis been holding it in all day. Okay, every stressor, every sensory input, every emotional demand. She observed it and held it. And the moment the external pressure came off, the moment she did not have to perform calm for everyone, everything she had been holding just kind of just, rushes out, right? Right at the person. And it happens to be the person that probably had nothing to do with the stressor, right? So this is called masking collapse, right? And it's one of the loneliest experience a person has experienced when they have ADHD, because the people who see you hold it together, the people who see you hold it together all day have no idea what it cost you. And the person who gets the overflow feels blindsided by something they did not cause. Now, have you lived with anyone or either of these scenarios? I want to know what you think in the comments section. Let me know, right? What else? What else can I think about? And then adults with ADHD describe this being like, they said it feels like a wave. Like it's literally like a collision. Okay, the ocean waving just blah, blah, back and forth like a big wave. Pressure, heat, humidity. Okay, and then some people will also describe this as like from home, and their children interrupting, them 17 times an hour. And on the 18th interruption, they just like snapped, yelling, saying something they immediately regret. and then sat in the bathroom afterwards crying because you could not understand, or they could not understand, why you reacted the way you reacted to your child. So now you're just like, oh my God, I am a horrible mother. I'm this. Now you're spiraling drastically. Okay. So there's a disconnect between the size of the trigger and the size of the reaction. That is ADHD rage in a nutshell. And the shame that lives in the gap is enormous. Adults with ADHD who, when they experience these, we feel ashamed, guilty, and misunderstood, especially after blowing up on a spouse, or on our kids, or a friend, or a colleague, right? The blow up happens, and then immediately clarity. Oh no, what did I just do? And the guilt that follows can be so dysregulating as the rage itself. It's like we never get a break, y'all. It never seems like we're getting a break. Now, have you ever had this guilt spiral afterwards? Like, if you did, sis, bro, you're not alone. Trust me. I think the past, like, since, I would say, like, I want to say since February, but let me say March. Since March of this year, my RSD, my spiraling, it's been really, 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 really bad, y'all. Like, it's been bad, right? And then, so we talked about adults with ADHD, rage, and all of that stuff. Rage in children, right? As many as one in two children with ADHD, they show signs of emotional dysregulation. This is very, very common. Like, the emotional dysregulations in ADHD is so, 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 so common. So if you have a child that has ADHD, which I do, I personally do have a child with ADHD, and I myself have ADHD. So there's like this significant chance of emotional outbursts, and it's part of their experience. And that means meltdowns. It means explosive reactions to what seems like nothing, crying that comes out of nowhere, and anger that escalates faster than you can track. So my child, with him, there's not so much of anger, so much of he has these phases where you might tell him, hey, you need to go chill out. Like, you need to go and take a breather. And he'll just start bursting out crying. I'm just like, well, I need to regulate myself, and you need to go regulate yourself. You go to the room. I'm going to go to the room. So we both are not, adding on to our stressors. Whatever it is, we're not adding on. So what a parent needs to hear clearly is that your child is not doing this on purpose. They're not trying to manipulate you. Like, you'll know if your kid is trying to manipulate you, if they're being dramatic for attention. Their brain at times genuinely does not know. Like, just like you, if you have ADHD, you don't know how to regulate um, the same regulatory break that a neurotypical child brain has. The emotions fires, and they do not have the tools yet, or the neurological development to stop it. Like, they can't stop it. And later on, if you ask them, like, why did you do that? They're like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know why I did. I just did it. It just happened. I couldn't stop it. So, which means, for the parents, it's not about punishment for the outburst, it's about teaching regulation skills. Now, I say this, and I'm not saying that I'm a perfect mother when it comes to regulating, helping my son regulate his ADHD. He's only 9. He's 8 right now. He hasn't even turned 9 yet. But it's very, very hard, okay, trying to calm that person down, trying to make them, like, just, have those regulation mechanisms. It's not as easy as you might read about it or hear about it. I know it. I live it myself. He lives it. So just do your level best, okay? Because that just it's very hard, and we don't have enough information, right? Your child's dysregulation is happening at the same time as your own nervous system is being triggered, and both of you are in the same storm together. That takes an incredible amount of self-awareness and grit. So give yourself credit for navigating that. And we talked about the shame of the relationship, or the guilt that we have. Family dynamics often bear the brunt of ADHD related to our emotional dysregulation. Mood swings and emotional outbursts can strain relationships, leaving family members, walking on eggshells. Sometimes I do have like the feeling like, okay, my husband maybe can't be like he's himself, or maybe he cannot be himself because he's like, okay, what if I say something and she gets triggered, and now she's not trying to, she's having mood swings, she's not talking to me for the next, 48 hours or 72 hours, because she doesn't even know why she's mad, but for some reason I'm getting the brunt of it. You know what I mean? So just, some, and I have me person, I have a hard time asking people for help, like requesting help with chores, or I don't know, because a simple request to help with core wait chores, goodness gracious, might escalate into like an heated disagreement, not because of the task itself, but because of, a complex of emotions that it might trigger. Walking on eggshells, that phrase, that is what it feels like for people who love someone with unmanaged ADHD rage. And for the person with ADHD, right? We know that the people, they love, they're bracing us for it. And and it's sad too. I don't know why it's making me want to cry. And it's also like sad for them, like they having to deal with someone that you don't know what they're gonna be feeling, how they're gonna react to you. It's really, really sad. So we have this negative self-perception that creates a vicious cycle of sometimes low self-esteem. I think, alhamdulillah, God, all praise is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I've worked on myself, that I no longer have like this low self-esteem. That, and if you have really low self-esteem, it leads to increased emotional sensitivity, which turns into triggers and more outbursts with ADHD. So you feel better about yourself. That makes your emotional threshold lower, which means you blow up more easily, which makes you feel worse about yourself. And around it goes. So that's why awareness is not enough. Understanding what's happening is the beginning and not the solution, right? The solution requires a lot of tools, and sometimes you have to get that actual professional support, right? Now, what can we do? Here's the things about rage. It's a full body event. Your heart rate goes up, your muscles tense, your jaws tighten, your breathing changes. It's not just in your head. It's like the overall cell of your body, which means you cannot at times think out of it. You have to move your way out of it, right? When I tie it back to faith, the prophet said, if one of you becomes angry while standing, let him sit down. If the anger goes away, if not, let him lie down. So you have to change your posture, a physical state change, basically. Um, and the science behind it is when you change your posture, especially when you move from standing and tense to sitting to laying down, you send a signal to your nervous system that the threat has passed ish, right? The body begins to down regulate. Down regulate. The heart rate starts to drop. And here's another thing that works fast, you can say. Try to put cold water on your face, specifically splashing cold water or submerging your face briefly. This activates something that's called the diving reflex. I just recently found out it's a psychological response that your body has had since birth that forces your heart rate to slow down almost immediately. Your body thinks it's underwater. It goes into conservation mode. The rage waves, starts to recede, right? So the moment you feel the heat, move, change your rooms, splash cold water, change your posture. Do not try to talk yourself down first. Move your body first. Move that body, okay? Then the talking would come after. Step 2, I would say, it's about prevention, knowing yourself well enough to catch the depletion before it becomes an explosion. Do that internal scan, okay? And here's how you could try to do it. Before you engage with anything that could be a trigger, a hard conversation, a loud environment, a chaotic activity with the kids, do a quick check with yourself. All right. Am I hungry? Have I had water? Have I slept? Is the room loud? How full is my emotional tank right now on a scale of 1 to 10? If you are already on a 7 before anything have happened, that you won't have to stop, okay? It's your nervous system telling you that you don't have the reserve for a 10. And you can communicate that. I tell my kids, like, and people close to me, like, hey, I'm at a 7 today. I need 15 minutes of quiet before I can show up the way that I want to, right? So you have to be self-aware before. The goal is not to pretend the tank is full when it's not. The goal is to know where it is at and communicate before the fume runs out. Okay, sisters, brothers, whoever you're dealing with this, right? And then step three would be the after action. And this is what matters most for relationship because blow ups happen even with all small tools, even with all the awareness. The tank empties sometimes, the wave hits, and when it does, what comes out matters like enormously. Rage thrives in shame. Okay. When we feel too ashamed to acknowledge what happened, when we go quiet, we get defensive or pretend that it was not that bad, the relationship damage compounds. The other person is left holding the impact of the explosion without any repair. So the repair script, I would say, is simple. I'm sorry I lost it. That was not okay. I was not angry at you. My brain was overwhelmed, and you just got the overflow of that. It's not your fault. I apologize, baby. I apologize, love. I apologize, whatever you call your spouse or your partner, right? And just say, I'm working on it. That's it. Three sentences or a few words, right? I am sorry I lost it. You're owning it. Accountability first. No excuses first, right? That was not okay. You're not minimizing it. You're naming it with, it was not fine. And you're making it clear, like, I'm not angry at you. You're separating the person from the response, right? Remember, with our ADHD, we go off at the wrong time and you can't stop it. So, and I'm working on it. You're not presenting yourself as fixed. You're presenting yourself as a progress, which is honest and which model, you know, sometimes extraordinary for your kids that adults struggle with. Adults take responsibility, the adults keeps trying. Now, what else actually helps is therapy, specifically CBT, okay? And DBT show, raw results for emotional regulations ADHD, so which is the cognitive behavioral therapy can help with understanding that something ambiguous is not necessarily threatening and it can reduce the tendency to the over perceived threat that drives so many ADHD rate responses. And if you needed medication conversations with your doctor, have that. It's not for everyone, but worth having the conversations. Reduce the load before the overflow, y'all. When where in your day can you reduce input? Noise canceling headphones, whatever it might be. Find a community, find people that understand you, people who are not going to shame you for struggling, right? Um, so that's all I had for today, I believe. What is the thing that sets you off faster? How do you repair it after a blow up with someone you love? What do you wish your family understood, about what's happening when it's happening? Right? And as a parent, I would like to ask you, what has helped you most, can't even speak, most with your child's meltdown? Um, and I always come back to this, right? Because I think one of the heaviest things of ADHD rage is the spiritual shame that comes with it. The feeling I'm a person of faith and I know I should be patient. I know anger is something we are supposed to manage and I still lost it. Again, what does it say about me? Like the Prophet ﷺ gave an advice, right? The prophet said, a man came to the prophet and said, give me an advice. And the prophet said to him, don't be angry. The man asked again and again and again. Each time the prophet said, don't be angry. So now the hadith is often used to make people feel shame about anger, but I want you to hear something else. The prophet was talking about someone who clearly struggled with anger, someone who needed to hear it more than once. He did not shame that person. He gave them a direction, a practice, a thing to work towards, right? And that is another hadith that I think is more relevant. So the Prophet ﷺ said, the strong person is not the one who can wrestle others to the ground. The strong person is the one who can control themselves in anger. So controlling yourself in a moment of anger is presented as the lightest form of strength, not the absence of anger. Control it in the moment, which means anger itself, feeling it is human, the part, you know, that we have to work on. And for someone whose brain is neurologically wired to have less regulatory control in those moments, that work looks different, right? It requires more intentional support, more tools, more grace, and more compassion from yourself and from the people around you. And remember, the Prophet ﷺ gave us the tools too. He said, change your posture, sit down, lie down, move your body. He combined spiritual guidance with practical physical instructions for us to do because the he understood that we human as a whole body, right? Spirit embodied together, and both need to be addressed. Allah does not shame you for how your brain is wired. He asks you, to do the work of your capacity. And your capacity includes getting support, getting tools, asking for help. That is not weakness, that is obedience to the command to take care of the amana he gave you. So in short, that was what was that? Almost an hour. Oh goodness, right? ADHD rate is real. It is neurological. It is documented, and it's something that a significant portion of people with ADHD live with in silence, in shame, without ever having a language for what they're experiencing. So your emotional think is real. The frayed wire between the amygdala and your prefrontal cortex is real. The sensory overload is real. RSD is real. The masking collapse is real. The guilt spiraling is real. All of it is real. And none of it makes us a bad person. It doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make you a bad person, okay? You're a person with a brain that's wired differently. And the wiring has a specific effect on how emotions are processed and expressed. Understanding that does not excuse behavior that harms people you love, but it does give you something to work with, a place to start, a reason to get the right support instead of just, carrying the shame. So do the physical shift, can speak. And if you found today's live session helpful, share it with someone who needs to hear it, because somewhere right here, right now, a parent is thinking their child is just bad, a spouse who thinks their partner just does not care, and a person who thinks they're just broken, there's something wrong with them. They need to know they're not, and they're still figuring it out. You know, how your brain works, okay? Subscribe if you're new. Come back for more of these conversations because we're just getting started. I'm trying to be more active in here. I've been active for the past few weeks, I believe so. Until then, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate all those that engage in the comment section. Um let's see here. Yeah. Bye. Leave you all in the care of God. Assalamu alaikum. Oh wait, how do I? Oh my